So, you're looking for help with your mortgage. Worried about foreclosure?
We can help you keep your house. All we ask for in return is that you submit to our plans for galactic domination. Sign.
If you're facing foreclosure, talk to the right people. Speak with HUD-approved housing counselors free of charge at 888-995-HOPE.
Welcome to This Week with Sheriff Dave Phalen, a weekly program here on 90.9 FM, WFCO Radio, and also on Time Warner, Channel 9, right here in Lancaster, the LSN network. And we are certainly glad to have each and every one of you, our viewers and listeners alike. And this is a program that we have on each and every week where we talk about things going on in our community, many times things going on within the sheriff's office. And so we're gonna have a community leader here in just a few minutes. I want to remind everyone, as we get into this cold weather, we will be having different snow levels, snow emergencies during those times. We get ice storms, we get snowstorms. And just to refresh everyone's memory, a level 1, and this is throughout the state of Ohio, is when we put out a level 1, we say be careful, just take your time. Make sure you have plenty of time getting to different locations. A level 2 actually means do not go out unless you absolutely have to. In other words, we're having a lot of accidents, but we understand people have to get to work, they have to get to meetings, those kind of things. And the last level, and fortunately I've only had to do that about 3 times in the last 11 years as your sheriff, is a level 3, and that simply means you're not to go out, not to be out on the roadway, and if you are, you're subject to a citation. So just wanted to remind everyone, we put that on our website within the Sheriff's Office. Also, the radio stations and television stations throughout Central Ohio have been very good about broadcasting that information when that happens. Well, without further ado, our guest is Monty Lobb. Good to see you, friend.
Good to see you, Dave.
And Monty Lobb and I go back a number of years. And you were actually the Assistant Secretary of State under Ken Blackwell a few years ago. That's right.
That's right.
And why don't, first of all, I think it's important to mention that while you were with Ken Blackwell, you did a lot of things as far as ethics and ethical behavior in government. Right. I think that's very important.
Right. It is. It is. Yeah, government's no different than any other kind of institution where you have folks who sometimes are challenged with character ethics. Maybe they didn't have good parenting, but they get into the workforce and don't realize that they need to play well together in the sandbox, so to speak.
Right.
And as leaders, as hiring authorities, you have an obligation to the entire team, the entire organization, to make sure that there's a good chemistry, that there's character ethics throughout the organization, and that as leaders that you're actually demonstrating and living that out for them.
Well, that is really great. And so you've gone on to leave the Secretary of State's office. And your background is an attorney. You've got a wife and a couple lovely kids, don't you now?
We do. We live in Bloom Township, just outside of Carroll and everything, by Chestnut Ridge Park. But yeah, a legal background as a lawyer, part-time professor at Franklin University, teaching a class in their MBA program. And then I have my own business called Kenosis, where I'm the president of that. And Kenosis is a Greek word for servant type of leadership, where you pour yourself out to help other people. But that deals with the character ethics. So I've been able to do a little work with the National Football League and some other organizations and companies based on character ethics.
So you go into an organization, and certainly in Fairfield County, there's been different scandals over the years that we've seen. And what are some of the basic things that you would tell the people within that organization about ethical behavior in government?
Right. I once heard an author say that if you want to build community, you have to have relationship. And if you want to have a relationship, you have to have dialogue or conversation. And if you want to have dialogue or conversation, you have to have trust.
Right.
And so it all boils down, you can whittle it all down to trust, which is a huge character ethic. And so, we can all connect the dots in the various institutions of where we've seen low character demonstrated.
Right.
And so at one time or another, people are going to clash, Dave, in terms of what they think's best for the organization or how to handle a situation. And can we go about and handle those situations in a way, in an upstanding manner, where people's feelings may be hurt, but they'll do what's best for the team. Or if relationships are injured, can they be repaired, through forgiveness?
Right.
And so what I try to do is go into those kind of situations, organizations, where people have experienced low character. It's just broken, it's fragmented, there's maybe lawsuits or grievances, or they're not as productive as they could be because of this people issue, which is, as well as I do, is at the essence of everything.
Yeah. So, certainly we've seen that locally. We've seen it nationally, where you see people, national figures that have kind of fallen.
Right.
And so, I guess what happens when that affects an organization, when it's public, what are some things that an employer do or a government agency can do to kind of repair that trust with the community?
Right.
Because I think that's so important.
It is. And I think first thing, and you do this, is you need to be the message, okay? So that not that anybody's perfect, but there's a consistency in practicing what you're preaching.
Right.
Especially the leaders, because they set the tone for the organization. Everyone else follows that. If they go, oh, well, okay, the sheriff has a different set of rules for these people as opposed to these, then people are going to take advantage of that.
Right.
But if there's a clear, concise message that's communicated to people in the organization that, hey, we're going to raise the bar in how we treat people, and this is how you do it, normally people will fall in line and not only prefer that, but thrive in that kind of a setting.
Yeah, and there seems to me to be, and I've seen this having worked for 3 law enforcement agencies, the Washington Police Department, the Columbus Police Department, and now the Sheriff of Fairfield County. There seems to be cultures within each of those organizations, and some very, very positive, very good, and some areas where you need work. And I'll just give you an example on a cultural thing. When you see the highway patrol, they look sharp.
Right.
They've got the cars usually clean, the guys look squared away, and so that's kind of passed down generation to generation. And sometimes there's a lot of self-policing within those organizations. In other words, if they're at roll call and somebody come in and their shoes weren't shined, they say, hey, you need to get your shoes shined.
Right.
So there's a lot of cultural things in organizations.
Right, no doubt. I mean, you see it at Disney. I mean, there's the Disney way.
Yes.
We can all think of different organizations, companies that have their way. But it starts with leadership, okay? And then with middle management and other managers saying, hey, we're going to back you up, we're going to support you, but this is the way we do it. And with character ethics, it's about leading people. It's not about managing. We manage projects, okay? Mm-hmm. But with character ethics, with people, you actually lead them, you mentor them, you model for them. And you take the time to roll up your sleeve and say, hey, this is how it's done, this is how it's not done.
If someone would want to get in touch with you about this, is there a number they could call?
Maybe
they had some problems within their organization, or they need you to come in and talk?
I'd happy to. They could call me on my cell phone, 614-519-9566.
Okay.
They can go to our website, kenosasltd.com, and take a look at some of the things that we do. Mm-hmm. But, to me, most of the people who are terminated or disciplined, it's not for competency issues, Dave. It's for character issues.
Right.
You know
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
I know that.
Right.
Having done that Secretary of State's office, when I had to terminate people or discipline people, it wasn't because they weren't fast enough answering phone calls or something of that nature. It was because there was a character breach.
Yeah. Now, exciting thing, there is a new district.
Yeah.
And Fairfield County is a part of that. And you're actually running for state rep.
Exactly. With all the redistricting that's going on, as you said, it's a brand new district. There are no incumbents. It takes into account really 7 townships within Fairfield County. So if you go to the western edge and look at Bloom, go down to Amanda, Clear Creek, and then over to Madison, Hocking, and then Clear Creek.
Yes.
Clear Creek, Rush Creek.
Right.
Okay. And those areas, those are the 7 townships. But then it's also parts of Pickaway County, all of Hocking, all of Morgan, and then a couple townships in Muskingum.
I guess I have never heard of such a district like that. That is really,
it is.
It takes in all these different townships, some different counties.
It does. It does. And so I'm out walking in the afternoons, going door to door.
Yeah.
And just meeting with voters and just passing out literature, seeing what their concerns are, and it's invigorating. I mean, to me, it's everybody who runs for office ought to do something like this.
Right.
Because it's my favorite part of the day.
Yeah.
You know, being face to face with people, and it's humbling because you got to go to people and just say, hey, I'm running. I need your help. Would you consider me?
Right.
And there's no guarantee that they will.
Right.
But it really puts you in touch on the front line with where people are.
So you'll be at the March primary coming up before you know it?
Exactly. Yeah, about 6 weeks.
You know what I found in having run for sheriff a few times now and been blessed enough to be successful at that is on the door-to-doors, how many people are pretty nice when you have at least initially before people knew me the first time I ran. I mean, you're knocking on the door, they don't know who you are, and certainly there's this mentality it's another salesman,
right? Those
kind of things. What are you selling? But what I found is most people are very, very nice. They really are.
They are. You know, it's funny because when I've gone,
and you were telling me like a couple invited you in.
Yeah,
It's like
they
Grandma
did,
and Grandpa.
and it was great. Saturday night, it was so cold. It was the last house of the night, and
Yeah.
my hands were freezing. And they did. It was an older couple and Amanda,
Right.
and they said, "Come on in. You know, we'll give you a cup of coffee and all this." And we just sat and talked for about 20 minutes and talked about the state of the world and the politics and what was going on. And that's just special, you know, to be invited into someone's home. Some people answer the door and say, "What are you peddling?"
Do they?
Yeah, I said, "I'm peddling good government, hopefully." You know, and so it's been. And then even people, they've opened the door barely, and you can see them behind their chain door, and they'll just peek at you and open up the door just enough where you can slide in some literature to them. But then once you talk to them, you can see the ice kind of melt.
Well, sure.
Yeah.
And I've found over the years that to this day, and I'm into my 11th year, or actually going into my 12th year this year, that I still have people that I run into, and they say, you know, you knocked on my door.
Yeah.
And they still remember that all those years ago.
Right.
And,
You know, so many times, I think elected officials hide behind ivory towers or wherever they are, their office doors, and they don't actually go and see what the needs of people are. And so that whole idea that I mentioned before about building community, you know, having the dialogue, the relationship, the trust, this is a prime model and example of that. For elected officials, if you're going to represent somebody, you got to know what their needs are.
Right.
You know?
Well, and we look at state government today and a lot of things going on there. And again, you know, the perception is negative. It really is, sadly.
It is.
And what I've found is most elected officials that I personally know are hardworking people. They're honest. They do a good job. So what are some things that, in your mind, makes a good state rep?
Right. I think first, being a good listener.
Yeah.
Being humble. When I was in law school, they always told you that when somebody asked you a legal question, if you didn't know the answer, don't try to bluff your way through it. Say, I don't know. I'll go find out and get back to you. And I think the same thing for an elected official or somebody a candidate running for office is that if you don't know, let people know that.
Right. You'll look into it, find out, see what you can do.
And I'll get back with you. Exactly. I think people appreciate that. And they can see through the smoke and mirrors of you trying to bluff your way through an answer.
Monty, we've got so much to talk about. We're about out of time. And if you would, I'd like to have you back next week.
That'd be great.
And we can talk a little bit, I think a little bit more about ethical behavior, especially in government. And we can talk a little bit about what makes a good state rep and a lot of different things. As always, you're a good guy, and I appreciate you being with us. I really do.
My pleasure.
Well, the clock on the wall says we've got to go, and we'll be back next week with the second half of this program. I do appreciate you, the listeners and the viewers, each and every week, and the folks here at Fairfield Christian Academy, the students, the staff that put this program on. Until next week, same time, same place. God bless. Buckle up if you're driving out there, and we'll see you next week.